Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Chat with the Chief. As always, I'm your Chief, Jared Mills, and today I'm here with Battalion Chief Steve Leach. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chief.
Great having you here. Obviously, I like to bring experts on and to tell us exactly what's going on, and that's very, very fitting to have you on a day like today as the environment we're all living in right now. So what I'd like to do is tell me a little bit about what you're seeing out there as far as when folks call for medical assistance and that type of thing. What are you seeing, and what's some of the things you'd like to have them relay for information to you folks to keep everybody safe?
Sure. At the fire department, we're seeing a lot of questionable calls, whether they're COVID related or not. With a lot of people are nervous about whether it's COVID symptoms they're having or whether they're having something else. So we've seen a lot of people calling with concerns about a cough that they have or concerns about a low-grade fever that they're having. And when we go, we'll send a crew out to assess them and take them to the hospital if they need to. A lot of the times we're looking at situations that aren't COVID related. More often than not, we're seeing patients that are having other medical emergencies that aren't COVID related. But when we do have somebody that's got the symptoms, we arrive, we're looking for a little bit of information from them before we come into the house. And we're aware that dispatch has asked them the questions already, but we're looking to find out if they've been around anybody that has been diagnosed with COVID-19 or if they've been around somebody who's sick with those symptoms. We're also looking to see if they've had a sore throat, scratchy throat, cough, shortness of breath, and then if they have a fever at all associated with it.
Yeah, so when that happens, obviously, and you have to respond and transport somebody to the hospital, what does that kind of look like? What can people expect when that happens?
Okay, so when we arrive and we come in, we've made that initial questioning, and then we're going to go in and we're going to do a full assessment. We're going to check vital signs, check temperature, do IVs if needed. We're going to do the full level of care just like we always do. But if you have any of the symptoms associated with it, we're going to take a couple of seconds to don all of our personal protective equipment to protect our paramedics as well as the patients. We're out dealing with a lot of people in the public. We come in contact with people, so we make sure that we're cleaning ourselves after every call and that we're putting on PPE to protect ourselves and the patients. So we'll go in, may take a second to get the PPE on. We'll initiate that care. We'll transport to the hospital just like we always do. And if we need to transport somebody to the hospital, and one thing that we want people to realize, right now the hospital is not accepting visitors. The only exception that they're giving to that is with a minor patient, they'll accept one parent to come in and be with them. Otherwise, they won't accept visitors, and we can't give somebody that's that wants to go as a visitor a ride into the hospital, or we will discourage you from going because they won't let you in to visit.
Yeah, very important point in these times, and obviously that's for reasons as common sense that we don't want folks going in there and populating the hospital at a time like this. So great information. Let me ask you this, Chief. Is there what are some of the tips? What are some of the things that people can do? We know the washing of the hands, and we know the social distancing of 6 feet, but what are some of those things that people can really do? Obviously, we're going to talk about at the end with the governor's new order, and the stay-at-home order is all part of it. But if you have to go out, and what are some of those techniques that people, when they're out in the public and out and about, what should they be doing to keep themselves safe?
Sure. The hand washing is a critical piece. One of the other major things that you can do to protect yourself is touching a surface and then touching your face. That we're finding now that seems to be one of the leading causes of transmission. It's not so much talking to somebody like we're doing. It's touching a surface that may have been contaminated, because the virus can live on surfaces, depending on the type of surface, longer than others. So if you touch that surface and then touch your face, adjust your glasses, scratch your nose, all of those type of things, that's when we're finding people are making that transmission. One of the latest things to come out in the last couple of days was conjunctivitis or pink eye being associated with it. And what it's looking like is people touching a surface, scratch their eye. That's the root of the infection now, is through the eye. So you may get a localized infection that turns into or transmits that virus to the rest of you.
Very interesting. That's good information for people to know. What about you see people like wearing the bandanas or the masks, gloves? Is that something that's recommended when you're out in public?
The latest recommendations from the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, is that wearing a mask when you're in public, even if it's a bandana, is worthwhile doing for the public. We would discourage the public from using N95 masks. That's not necessary to keep you from spreading it or to protect you in a social setting like that. Those are more towards close contact with healthcare workers treating a patient that has it. But the bandanas or a simple face mask is a recommended thing now going out into the public, mostly for the large droplets.
Good stuff. And of course, with the latest order helping us out, not going out is the best recipe, but we know people do have to go out. So that's obviously something that we'll have to contend with. But limit those trips to the grocery store and the trips to the places you have to go and plan ahead. So
yeah, that's important. And if you do need to go to the grocery store, just one person go. Yeah, don't take your family, don't take your children. If you have small kids and you don't have someone else that can, can watch them, then try to get somebody else to pick up your groceries while they're out. Don't put additional people at risk.
Great information. Let's talk about this, something that helps you folks out that people can do at their house. This card of, I believe it's called the Card of Life or something to that effect.
Yeah, File of Life.
File of Life, yeah.
What we have is basically it's a little form that people can fill out. It's a medical history form, and the form itself isn't anything magic. You can write all the same information down on a piece of paper if you don't have the form. But it talks about what medications you're on, what your medical history is, allergies, those type of things that are going to be asked when we get there. If you have them written down so that they can be given to us, in an instance where somebody may be in and out of consciousness and not able to tell us that information, we know that we can look at your refrigerator and find that File of Life. It's a magnetic plastic holder, and you fill out the card, you slide the card in the folder, and you stick it on the side of your refrigerator. It's red coloring, makes it easy for our paramedics to see, and we can grab that and have your critical information. The other suggestion with that is if you've had symptoms that are related or associated to COVID, or you've been tested, if you could write that information down and put that on your refrigerator. Keep a track. If you're doing your quarantine, self-quarantine, after being evaluated by a physician, track your temperatures, track the information about symptoms, and write it down so that if we come to pick you up, we have that history of where you've been at throughout that process. And you could keep it right with that.
That's great information to have for people to keep in mind. Excellent. What I'll close with is maybe a piece about, this is April 1st, April Fool's Day, and tomorrow morning at 12:01, the governor's executive order goes into effect. So I think I'll close on that with just a little bit of information for everybody. Remember, this is an order through the state. We've received a lot of calls at the Augusta Police Department, and I'm sure a lot of other entities in the city, as well as other municipalities. But remember, this is an order through the governor's office, so all of the inquiries should really go through them. You can call the state of Maine, you can call the governor's office, and they'll be able to field those calls. They have websites set up where if you're a business, you can go online and actually enter your business and what you do to determine whether you're essential or not. But for our piece, for the police department piece, not so much asking questions about the order, which is up for them to answer, it's the enforcement side of it. And that's what people, I think, are most worried about. I think first of all, they want to know preemptively, can I work, can I go places, that type of thing. And obviously there are several exceptions for folks to be able to go out for things that are needed and that type of thing, but it's obviously limited, and it's a shelter at home order. So it's only for necessary things like getting food. You can go outside, walk, exercise, but you need to practice that social distancing, no groups of more than 5. There's a bunch of stuff out there we have on our website that's out there from the order. And the big part that I want everybody to know is from the enforcement side, is it's going to be education, education, education. We are not looking to run out there and get people in trouble or write them tickets or arrest them because they're not following the executive order. We are going to take this slow. We're going to educate the public. If we see a violation, i.e. the police department sees that, we're actually going to stop and talk to the folks. If we receive a complaint about either a business that shouldn't be operating or whatever is maybe not in line with the governor's latest executive order, or all 3 orders for that matter, then we're going to go out, identify if it is in violation, and have that discussion. There's not going to be a ticket the first time around. It's going to be us working with the public to educate. We're all in this together. We all need to solve this problem, and for us to be adversarial to the public is not what I'm looking for. My staff is great. The guys and gals of Augusta PD do an awesome job, and they're going to be out there helping everybody to educate. So that's what I ask, is that everybody just listen. If they are in violation of something, don't worry about it. We're going to have that discussion with you, and obviously we'll record our interactions. So if there are people that are willfully not listening to what we're describing or what we want them to do per the order, and obviously we'll have to take a higher action. But don't worry about anything. If you're driving down the road, I've had people ask me, do I need papers? Do I need this? The police going to be having checkpoints? That's not happening. We're not to that point. It's going to be us working with the public like we did the last order. The same thing. We had a bunch of questions. Things have settled out over a week. So obviously moving forward, we're going to do the same thing. Any questions, you can always give me a call. But like I said, when it comes to the governor's order, that's going to be something that the state is answering, and they have things in place to either online or by telephone to do that. So that's all we have for now. Chief, you have anything else you want to add before we close?
I think that's the key thing, is the order is going to help flatten that curve. And, if we can all get through this and take it for a little while, we'll get through the other side, and we'll look back and say, wow, it wasn't as bad here as they expected. The reason it wasn't as bad here, I hope we're able to say, is because of the order and keeping people in, keeping that social distance. And if you have any questions about it, not necessarily the order itself, but any questions about what you can do to protect yourself, the Center for Disease Control website, cdc.gov, has information for everyone from just at home, what I can do at home, right up through businesses or healthcare workers. So it's a great resource. Don't just Google it and go with what you find. Go to the respected sites of CDC or Maine CDC and get your information there.
Great information, and that's the way we'll close here today. Thank you, and tune in next time.